Good afternoon, everybody. Actually, it's 8:39. I should probably be saying good evening. It is evening time. I'm looking a little tired to me. Um, so guys, I'm gonna wait a minute and give you guys a chance to join. Come on in. Guys, sometimes comments are delayed. I don't know why, but if you're here, you can hear me. We got a good connection. Give me a thumbs up to let me know that you guys are here and you're hearing me. See, like I can see people starting to come now, but there's a delay. Hi, my old layer. Thumbs up. Okay, so you guys can hear me. Yeah, there's a little bit of a delay. Hey, SDC, how you doing? All right, guys. Hey, thank you, James. You know what? I've been saying mean stuff to myself all day. All day, it's been really hard for me not to say mean things to me. So thank you. I'm going to try to stop doing that. I don't know what my problem is. I've been talking mean to me all day. Bro, cut it out. Oh, it's cute today too. Y'all saw me. Okay, so guys, I wanted to come and talk to you all about the Driver's License Suspension Reform Act, but y'all don't want to talk about that. So, hey, baby, you're home. I'm glad you're home. Hey, Kamal, it's good to see you. Guy, he threw me off because people say that they're my old clients a lot of times, but sometimes they'd be lying. But he really was my client, and then he told me his name, and I remembered him. And I'm glad that he's home and he's out and he's good. So guys, I'm lying. We're not going to talk about that because you guys don't want to talk about your licenses. I'm going to make a video my own self later on my own time, and I'm going to talk to you about your licenses and the new thing that went into effect today to change suspensions, really for the good, and that will really help all of you. But tonight, we're going to talk about R. Kelly. I'm sorry. We're not going to talk about that either. Like, I'm all over it. Thank God I got notes. Tonight, we're going to talk about... Yes, Jessica, I am going to talk about that. I'm going to post that later. Because everybody asked me to do this live specifically to talk about Bill Cosby. So this live is going to be about Bill Cosby, guys, because you guys are going crazy. It's all over my timeline. Everybody's confused. Everybody has so many questions about what's going on and how this happened and what. And... in large part, it's because so many of you got so much information from the media and didn't necessarily follow the case. So I'm going to start from the beginning and kind of explain it to you. First of all, guys, this is not legal advice. I am an attorney, but I'm not your attorney unless I am. As you can see, sometimes I am. You should always get your legal advice from your lawyer. Also, I know a lot of you are going to inbox me afterwards. This video is going to be all about Bill Cosby, like I said, so please like it, share it, comment so that everybody can have this conversation, because I'm coming from this perspective, guys. I'm an attorney. I'm a former judge. I also was a prosecutor in the district attorney's office locally for quite some time, and in that bureau, I did domestic violence and child sex abuse cases, so I primarily was responsible for prosecuting sex abuse cases, and in that vein, I was the first, I say this all the time, but I was the first prosecutor in Monroe County to ever obtain a conviction for predatory sexual assault against a child. Which carries a life sentence. So I know a thing or two about sexual assault cases. And so I felt like I was in a pretty good position to have this conversation with you guys, because I think people want information. So first and foremost, what you have to understand, that something happened here, right? Bill Cosby had previously entered into an agreement with the former district attorney, and the agreement essentially said that he would provide sworn testimony in a civil case, right? Because there was a civil case here prior to there being a criminal case. Well, that's arguable, but he said that he would provide testimony against himself, essentially, in a civil case, and the district attorney agreed that they would not use that testimony against him, that wouldn't be used in any form or any subsequent trial or in any manner. It would never see the light of day. That testimony that he gave in the civil case would be sealed. It would not be used for prosecution purposes, right? Now, the district attorney doesn't have to agree to that, but if the district attorney agrees that you make a statement and that statement won't be used to prosecute you in the future, and then that statement is introduced at your trial to corroborate the statement of the complainant, that's problematic, guys. And in this case, that's what's happened. But it's not just that. It's two things, right? So, again, remember, I said the former DA refused to prosecute the case, right? There was a victim in the case. There was one victim. That victim, according to the district attorney, was not credible. for a few reasons. One, he said that she had a delayed disclosure. What does that mean? That means that she doesn't report the actual allegation until sometime after it's alleged to occur. He says that in addition to the delayed disclosure, she's inconsistent on what it is she said occurred. And number three, he says that there's a lack of physical evidence. Now, guys, I'm going to tell you none of those things are uncommon. That is normal. A lot of times in sex abuse cases, the perpetrator is somebody known to the complainant, right? And that's why I was hesitant to talk about this, because realistically, a lot of Black women, and I hope you're not offended, but we're too close to this situation because of their own trauma from being raped and or molested by father figures and family members that Bill Cosby was to most of us, right? He was like a father figure to most of us. So a lot of women were immediately triggered and their own trauma came out. And even without looking into the case, they had strong feelings about it. Now, I don't have a lot of information about all of the victims that allege that he did something to them. He was convicted for incidences involving one woman, guys, just one. I know that there were a lot of allegations, but there's one woman. And that one woman had previously been deemed to be inconsistent and unreliable. So much so that the district attorney refused to prosecute him and signed an agreement saying he would never, the statements he made against himself would never be utilized against him. That's a really, really big deal, guys. Remember that he also made this statement, right? So people want to talk about what the statement said. In the statement, he admitted to, number one, giving quaaludes to women. He totally said that he did that. He said that he had pills, they were hippies, everybody did drugs, he would give women drugs. He also said that he had sex with some of the women. Some that he gave drugs, some that he didn't. He never said that he gave them drugs to have sex with them. He's adamantly denied that the entire time. He said that he gave them drugs because they were drugging and that he had sex with them because they were sexing. But he never said that he drugged them to get them to have sex. In fact, he always kind of implied that that wasn't necessary because he's Bill Cosby. I'm not saying whether what he said was true or not. I'm literally reporting the facts. I am not remotely emotionally involved in this. Unfortunately, Bill did not retain me for whatever reason. We're going to work that out in the future, but I'm just telling you the facts here as I know them to be. Okay? So yes, he admits to giving women drugs, and he admits specifically to having sexual contact with this complainant. And he admits that one of the times they had sex is the same time that she said he drugged her and they had sex. So you see how that's incredibly incriminating, right? Because he says, I gave her drugs and she took them voluntarily. I didn't sneak them to her. And I had sex with her voluntarily. She says he gave me drugs. I was out of it, and then I had sex with him. I didn't know what I was doing, and he gets convicted based on a statement that the jury should have never heard. But there were two things, guys. It wasn't just that. Everybody's hung up on his statement. It wasn't just his statement, right? There was, where are my notes on this? There were two trials in this case. In 2017, he was tried for the same incident, and there was a hung jury. They heard the evidence, and they said, oh, no, I don't know what happened here. We don't know. And they ultimately ended in a mistrial. In 2020, he was tried again and he was convicted of all three counts. And the difference between the first trial and the second trial was that 5 women were allowed to testify against him, essentially, who had made complaints of sexual assault after being drugged, but not in times that they were prosecuted. I believe the women's cases might have actually been past the statute of limitations for prosecution, but what they did instead was said, we're going to have these women testify in terms of what his modus operandi is, essentially. They said, this is what he does, this is what he normally does, this is how he operates. So they got to testify about what he had done to them in other incidences, even though he hadn't been convicted or even charged or tried for any of those prior incidences. And the court said no to that too. They said, first of all, his statement was a statement against his Fifth Amendment rights to not incriminate himself. And so as soon as he was charged in violation of that statement, there was an injustice that had occurred. Second, they said those 5 women should have never been allowed to testify because it was incredibly prejudicial against him to hear from 5 women whose stories had never been vetted through cross-examination in the criminal justice system, right? That's generally what happens. So those things were incredibly big deals, guys, because the court said that that was such a problem and that it was so egregious that that had occurred that not only did they reverse his conviction, but they threw it out. He can't be tried again. He's done. He's free. He's all set. Unless somebody else is going to come forward now, which would be unlikely, right, given what just happened here. Unless someone else is going to come forward, they can't charge him with this offense with this particular woman anymore. And also, when we're talking about interesting information to know, he settled a trial with her. He settled a civil suit with this woman prior to this criminal case coming about, which is how this agreement was made, and it was for $3.38 million. So it was a sizable settlement. It's also interesting to note that the new DA who did decide to charge him, even though they had an agreement saying that they wouldn't, did it a few days before the statute of limitations was up. So he was almost done, and it was just a really strange decision. That is pretty much what I found, guys. For example, I wrote this and I didn't say it before, but some of you are familiar with federal waivers. They used to give federal waivers if you had a gun case, right, in state court, and they would say, if you plead in state court, we're not going to prosecute you in federal court. They don't do that anymore. But when they did, if they tried to prosecute you in federal court, your attorney would come with a waiver and say, no, you can't, and it would end there. In this case, that's what happened, and it didn't end there. I know that everyone feels like there was a serious miscarriage of justice because they believe these allegations, and I don't have an opinion on the allegations. I didn't watch the testimony. I didn't hear any of the testimony. I can't say. What I can say, though, is that a district attorney entered into a binding agreement to not prosecute someone for something that they testified about, and then that person was prosecuted in violation of that agreement and sent to jail, to prison for 2 years, and had their entire reputation marred, and was seen by the entire community as a predator and a sex offender, and he never could have legally been tried, but is known as a rapist to the entire Black community that he had been a father figure to before. It's real hard for me not to see that as an injustice, guys. I don't know what you guys are hearing that I'm not hearing, or what you're seeing that I'm not seeing, or I don't know what you guys are talking about. The court was really clear that he never ever should have been indicted, charged, anything, and he went to prison. Can you buy your way out of the criminal justice system? Some people can. It doesn't look like it's working for Weinstein. It doesn't look like Epstein thought that it was going to work for him. Sometimes you can do shit that's so egregious that you can't buy your way out. I think that everyone was very offended because there were so many women in this case. They thought there's no way that they can all be making this up, right? There were so many women. But I never got the impression that the allegations against him from this particular woman were ever strong. From the outset, the district attorney said she wasn't credible. And guys, that's a really hard determination to make. I understand, right? It's important that we do believe women and that women do have safe spaces to come forward and say when they're molested or assaulted. But some people die, guys. Not just women, some of all people in the world die. Some people die. And so do we blindly just believe women? Guys, when I say I didn't do it, most of you don't believe me. I'm still a woman. We have to be careful. We have to be careful about jumping in and half assessing information. And I think that we have a tendency, and it's just because of the way white supremacy is set up and self-hatred is so indoctrinated, to do that more when it's us. To be like, no, and to not want to hear things or to listen to logic. Again, I think that you can tell my opinion because of the law, but I don't have an opinion on the facts. I didn't follow it intentionally. I really didn't want to watch Bill Cosby be smeared. I really did see him as like this father figure growing up. I loved the Cosby Show. It was like the family that everybody wanted to be a part of, okay? I wanted to be everybody. I wanted to be Felicia Rashad. I wanted to be Rudy. I loved the Cosby Show, and I didn't want to see it, but waiting for everything to play out and having it play out the way that it did, guys, they didn't say that he wasn't guilty. You're right. Essentially, you don't really ever say that. A person might get found not guilty, but that just means there's not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. That doesn't mean they're innocent. Just like people get found guilty all the time of things that they didn't actually do. Guys, I wouldn't be surprised if Bill Cosby sued the shit out of them for malicious prosecution. The court was incredibly clear that he never should have been prosecuted, and that agreement, by using that agreement, they violated his Fifth Amendment right to not incriminate himself. That is a constitutional right. I would not be remotely surprised if Bill Cosby sued the shit out of everybody and then bought whatever. Wasn't he trying to buy Oprah or something? I wouldn't be surprised if he sued them and bought Oprah. I don't know if Bill Cosby can buy Oprah, guys, because I think Oprah might buy his ass. But, like, guys, I don't know about you, but yeah, Felicia Rashad tweeted today, like, justice finally. And Felicia Rashad is my TV mom. And I trust her opinion a lot. I think she spent a lot of time with somebody, but you never know somebody, guys. I don't know what happened. I just know that he had an agreement, and they violated his agreement, and they violated his right to not incriminate himself. And then that man went to prison for 2 years, and they were dead wrong from the outset, and they knew that. You know, guys, it'll be really interesting to see now, right? Because all of the networks dropped him. Are they going to pick him back up? I don't think so. There are some things in the world that you can be accused of, and honestly, DWI is not normally one of them, but there are some things in the world that you can be accused of that you can't come back from, and rape is usually one of them. It does not matter if you're not convicted of rape. If you're charged with rape, it's just as damning. There was a principal here, or a coach or something, that was charged with rape, and he was acquitted. And I haven't heard of him again, but I wonder if he still lives here. I doubt it. I had a client who I got an acquittal for a rape, and he does still live here. But I know that we spoke often about how horrible it was for him, and how horrible it still is for him, because a lot of people in his community still think that he did it. It doesn't matter that he was acquitted. I saw somebody said 57 women. Guys, 57 women is a lot. And but that's the other thing. Remember, this conversation is not about whether or not he raped 57 women. He wasn't convicted of raping anyone. And he wasn't convicted of raping 57 women. You guys get emotional, and when you're emotional, you should call like your mom or something. This is a conversation about the law. He wasn't convicted of raping 57 women. He wasn't convicted of raping anyone. He was convicted of sexually assaulting one woman who he paid $3 million before she ever tried to prosecute him, and who he also was told he could never be prosecuted for. You don't see the difference there. I mean, if you're mad, then say that. And if you've got trauma because you were raped, I'm sorry, maybe you should get some therapy. But this is not the conversation that we're having. And when you perpetuate that, that's exactly why I don't think that they'll ever pick up his shows again. That's exactly why I don't think that the Cosby Show will run again. I don't think, irrespective of the fact that he was cleared, because guys, this is as innocent as you get. A not guilty is as innocent as you can get. Even though that happened, he'll never recover from what this did to his... Bruh, not to mention Bill Cosby just went to prison for 2 years. Do you know the type of toll that took on him? I wouldn't be surprised if he just came home and died. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised if he just came home and, like, I'm not saying anything about the 57 women. I don't know what their allegations were, but for this particular woman, yeah, Smoker Marie, that means he never should have been in prison. It means he never should have been charged. It means they never could have legally charged him with a crime here. That's what it means. Yes, guys. That's what I'm saying to you. I'm saying they never could have legally charged him with anything here, because years ago, I think I wrote down when it was. I didn't write down when it was, but years ago, they agreed to never prosecute him for this. In 2015, there was a civil suit. He acknowledged that there were 3 sexual encounters. He acknowledged that he gave her drugs, and he settled that civil suit for $3.38 million, and that precluded them from ever charging him. But in 2017, a new district attorney came in. Not the one that he had made the agreement with. But you know, and I know that that's not how it works, right? If Sandy gives you a deal today and then Sandy loses and there's a new DA next year, do they get to say, you're not on probation no more, you got to go to prison? No. Do they get to say, oh, remember that case that we no-billed? We're about to go and indict it. No, that's not how the law works for anyone. So while there is favoritism sometimes in the law, I'm sorry, it's not usually coming to black men. They're not usually the ones that are on the receiving end of super favor. Generally, when black men get not guilty verdicts, it's because, number one, there's not sufficient evidence. Number two, they hire a legal team that Jesus ordained for them themselves. And number three, they just don't give up. Because generally, like you see, OJ went back to jail, y'all. Like, when they want you, and they're going to come get you until they can't stop. They should have exactly the same energy at putting him back where he was, but they don't care at all. My client, who I got acquitted of rape, was not remotely in Bill Cosby's position. He had a regular job at his nursing home, and he was there when the police came to arrest him for allegations that were made for something that was alleged to have occurred 6, almost 7 months before. And he lost his job immediately. And he never got it back. He got arrested at work for being a rapist, and everybody at his job thought he was a rapist. The collateral consequences of being charged with a crime, not even convicted, just charged. The other day I was in court on a case, and my client was being arraigned, and Channel 8 was there, and they said that they wanted to record the arraignment so that the community could have closure. There's no effing closure. My client is getting arraigned. At arraignment, you want the community to think that he's guilty of something. Yeah, guys, that's a problem, and it's a problem that disproportionately affects us, and then we perpetuate that stereotype by sharing misinformation, sharing bad information, and saying that people are guilty of things without having any facts. Yes, it's like double jeopardy. It's not because he wasn't tried and he wasn't charged, but the fact that they said that he couldn't be charged and he couldn't be tried, and then they used the statement specifically that he gave in reliance on that promise, means that they deprived him of his right to not incriminate himself. He never had that right once they prosecuted him after making that statement where he was promised he wouldn't be prosecuted. He never had a right to not incriminate himself, and we all have that right. That's why when the police question you or try to talk to you, what do I always say? STFU, call your lawyer. Because you have a right to not incriminate yourself. You do not have to tell the police that you were giving women drugs and having sex with them, because that's your business. They have to do their job, and they have to figure it out. And then the district attorney has to convince everyone else, or at least the 12 jurors that are there, that you did it. You don't have to do anything as a defendant. You don't have any burden. You don't have to testify. You don't have to present a defense, and you don't have to say a word. You actually have a right to never say a thing. You know, it's why I was amazed when my testimony got introduced into evidence against me at a hearing. Or no, I'm sorry, my lawyer's testimony. Same. It doesn't happen, guys. I can't wait but it's not my turn. It's Bill Cosby's turn, so whatever. But so yeah, no, they can't do that. They can't use your words against you without telling you that they're going to use them against you. That's what Miranda is, right? People v. Miranda says that the police have to tell you that anything you say and or do can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney. If you can't afford an attorney, one will be appointed or assigned for you. You don't have to talk to me. They tell you this stuff because you don't have to talk to them. So if I had a client the other day. The police failed to tell him any of that until after they had a conversation with him, until after he was under arrest, until after he had already told them everything. Everything he said to them got suppressed. Literally every single word. And he was talking his behind off. You have a right to not incriminate yourself. A rape allegation is I don't know who that is, but well, yeah, Ben is a baddie then, because it's really hard to come back from a rape allegation, guys. So let's see, I'm going to check some of the comments, which is really hard to do while I'm on the phone, so if I suck, sorry. That's really the bottom line. They prosecuted him with a deposition that should have never been used, and that they personally guaranteed him they wouldn't use. You can't do that. You can't. And not just his statement, because you guys are hung up on his statement, but they also used 5 women who had made, or who made allegations in front of a jury of prior sexual misconduct that had never been prosecuted, he had never been convicted of those things. I personally, from my perspective, think that's incredibly prejudicial. I think they didn't get to that issue as much as they would have, or maybe they did. I did not read the whole 79-page decision, but I think that his statements got played up more because it was so crazy that the prosecutor just ignored their own agreement. But the fact that 5 women who he'd never been convicted of doing anything to it, that's really prejudicial, guys, because the jury is going to do just what you're doing and say, 5 women? The jury read all of the stuff that you guys read too, and they're gonna say 57 allegations or 57 different women. They're not all lying. The exact same thing is gonna happen there, and that's exactly what prejudice is. When you decide this many people said it is probably true versus let me listen to this one person's testimony and decide. Am I saying to you that Bill Cosby's not a rapist? No, I don't know Bill Cosby. I don't know what he did or didn't do. And I generally think that men, especially men with power and money, can tend to be a little predatory-ish, particularly black men who are not seen as attractive. I don't necessarily think Bill was in that bracket, but they can be super like, oh, I have money and power now and I can just have sex with anybody. But I don't know what he did or didn't do. I have no idea. I just know that this case, it don't sit right with me. A lot of stuff about this case seems real weird and off. And I'm really confused as to why it became a thing. Because there was so much opportunity for it to become a thing before it did. And the timing seems odd. And particularly after a no prosecution agreement, it seems like, I wonder what was really going on here. I wonder what the real reason for this to come about was. I don't know, and I may never know. But I just wanted to try to give you guys some background on why things might have gone the way that they did, because I see everybody going crazy. I see like relationships ending on my Facebook, people unfriending people and not talking. And again, this isn't emotional, this is a legal analysis, and that's all I have, because I didn't watch the trial. I didn't watch her testimony. I don't know if I would have deemed her credible or if I would have deemed her incredible. I have to be honest with you. When I'm determining credibility, a $3.38 million settlement before any actual prosecution is brought is going to weigh in my mind. And the fact that you took a civil settlement knowing that it could have jeopardized your ability to have a criminal case in the future is also going to weigh in my mind. I don't just believe people. I don't just believe anybody. I determine credibility when I listen to people. Unless I know you, when I know you, I just believe people. When I'm listening to people, especially in a trial posture, I don't just believe nothing nobody says. Man, woman, child. When I was a district attorney, guys, people would come in, and when I would talk to the kids, or I would ask them questions. This is a big deal. You cannot just believe, and you know, some of you have sons, and you want to be real hesitant to jump on this just believe everything a woman says thing, because sometimes people die for a myriad of reasons. Yeah, he became the face of the Me Too movement. He was the believe black women, protect black women. It was like, wow. It actually, there's a lot of articles about what's going to happen to the Me Too movement now. And what impact is this going to have on women? Because it certainly will, guys. This will discourage women from coming forward. It will discourage real, legitimate victims who have been sexually assaulted from coming forward. They will believe that the system is too big, that they can't beat it, that they can't defeat it, and that they'll just be humiliated and shamed. And in some ways, that's true. Our system is not a great one. It's just the one we have. It's not perfect. It's incredibly imperfect, and it results in injustices probably just as often as it does injustice. But it's the system. So, I don't know. I'm going to give you guys a chance. Anybody have any questions before, thanks, Charles, before I end the live? Because I just wanted to give you some information. And I think from the statements that I seen briefly, people were saying that, that, you know, they got it and thank you, and that they understood better now. I do think he will file a lawsuit. I mean, all he can do is get money. All he can do is get money. And Bill Cosby probably doesn't need any money, guys. He probably would like those 2 years of his life back. He's an older man. He probably would like his reputation repaired. I can't imagine the dollar amount that you could put on the loss that he's experienced. It's unfathomable to me. He probably will sue. I mean, I wonder though, because, you know, sometimes you think that, and then sometimes in the thick of it, you want to sue and you want to get justice, and you're just so tired and you're so beat down and you're so scared, because you're like, if you guys knew from the beginning you couldn't do this to me and you did it anyway, then what else might you do to me? And that's a real valid question for him to be asking himself right now. I think you're correct. He might not live the year out. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't look good. He had a rough time in jail, I'm sure. And he probably just feels fulfilled to the extent that he'll be able to, that his conviction was overturned. Oh, I thought my bracelet fell off. I was sad, and I was like, I lost it for real. Life is priceless. Yeah, so guys, I hope that this was informative. Like I said, do me a favor, like, share, follow, all of those good things. Everybody's always like, I miss your live. Hopefully tomorrow I will post the information about the licenses. I'm going to post that in a video, not in a live. And then maybe I'll do a live after just to answer questions, because I know you guys always have questions. You guys are always like, I inboxed you. If you guys ever look at the number of people in my live that tell me that they inboxed me, you would know I'm never going to see your inboxes. And then real people are calling and texting too. But nice to talk to you all. Yes, thank you for the likes and shares and whatever, or the little stuff. Please share the video so that people can get this information. I told you I'm about to, I don't know what I'm about to do, but help me get there and help me do it. So share. Love you all. Take care of yourselves and one another. I will be back soon with the information on your license, because to be honest, that's a lot more important to you than this. Did I win? I didn't win, guys. You guys are so late to the party. I didn't win. All right. Have a good night.